I think it goes along party lines. I've seen a few interviews with groups of women that have said, regardless as to what he said, that they're still supporting him and agree with this kind of language of locker room talk or banter. It's unfortunate, though, that we live in a society of like rape culture where those comments get easily kind of swept under the rug, because of the way that we perceive sexuality and the kind of predatory nature of men. And so, unfortunately, it says a lot about, as a society, what our expectations are for men and masculinity. But I see like the critiques of it, as well as the kind of enduring support for him, like running down party lines in terms of a moderate or undecided voting bloc. I imagine that they're concerned about it, but I think it's also become part of, as we see with the last debate and the last question, asking if both candidates had something nice to say about the other, that it becomes part of the way that there's just mudslinging on both sides. And it's unfortunate because I don't think that that's a valid critique, because it kind of goes beyond a level of decorum, even for the arena of politics, that I think there should be more of a critical eye towards. So we're in somewhat kind of uncharted waters in terms of having a primary or a candidate, a big nominee candidate, being a woman. And we kind of see, unfortunately, how gendered the two campaigns are, right? And one is because of how unconventional of an election season this is, due in part to Trump, but also because of just a lot of the language and ideas that we bring to the presidential campaigns, how that manifests itself with Hillary. So, for instance, the idea of charisma or even honesty, right? That we oftentimes, just as a society, give less value to women past a certain age, right? I was telling my students that if you think about how often Disney uses older women beyond like childbearing age as the villains for their films, right? That so often we see that there's just a lack of regard for them, so that issues around charisma or around honesty, even within the landscape of politics, which has historically been a place where people are critiqued for their honesty, right? That it becomes even a bigger issue, and that we see more of a critique for Hillary Clinton, and less of one for Trump. Yeah. I don't know that the critiques of her wouldn't be the same had she not been the First Lady and Bill Clinton not her husband, right? Because it's very erroneous, right, that even as she was calling attention to the leaked tape this past debate the Friday before, that somehow she was implicated in her husband's extramarital affairs, right? And that did anything in terms of her moral compass or ethics, right? And so it's problematic, going back to your previous question about how gendered the campaign trail has been, right? Because Melania Trump wouldn't be held, well, maybe she would be, for the sins of Trump, yeah. As awkward for me, because I'm relatively new to the Valley as well, as the caucus was, it's very public. In the primaries, it's very public, and you have to basically state your claim and why you're voting for what you're voting, or who you're voting for. I don't know, there's something about the conversation around politics that, unfortunately, as polarizing as this campaign season has been, I think it's stifled some of those conversations, and the willingness to kind of engage in politics for the way that we might be perceived by our neighbors.